Our dear Father in heaven, we come this evening in the attitude of a city council meeting. We are so grateful to be citizens here in Independence and be able to attend city council meetings, give input, find resolution, and ordinances that are passed to make the city bigger, stronger, and more beautiful. We're grateful to have Councilwoman Karen DeLucy back among the council, that her health has improved enough to allow her to come back, and we give thee gratitude for these blessings. Father in heaven, we ask blessings upon each council member as they consider the issues and ordinances at hand. Guide and inspire them to choose those things that are in the best interests of the citizenry of the city. And we ask blessings of protection on our emergency people, the police, the firemen, the ambulance, those that risk their lives each day to protect us. We ask blessings. We wish to give thee gratitude for the blessings of the improvement of the COVID situation, and that we might continue to improve until it's no longer an issue, that we can move about freely without masks. We love thee, Heavenly Father, and ask these blessings in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmembers Huff? I can't hear you.
Here.
Perkins?
Here.
Stewart?
Here.
DeLucy?
Here.
Steinmeier?
Here.
Hobart?
Here.
Mayor Weir?
Here. We do have a couple of scout troops and individual scouts that we'd like to recognize tonight. So before we get into the citizens' request, we will go ahead and do that. And when I call you up, if you'd like to come up and have your picture taken, then just come up here to the front and we'll get a photo for you. So the first one we want to recognize is Aaron from Pack 4221, Cub Scout Pack 4221 from River Boulevard Baptist Church. So Aaron is here with his scout leaders. He has earned the Luis Alvarez Supernova Medal. This medal showcases the hard work and determination in the advancement of STEM. So Aaron has researched Dr. Alvarez and his role in science and his many other achievements, and he's here this evening to show us the medal that he has earned so that we can congratulate him on this great achievement. So thank you very much, Aaron, for being here. Did you want to say a few words? I can barely see you. Congratulations. Thank you for being here. Councilman Perkins has a group that he'd like to recognize as well.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have Cub Scout Pack 738, Glenview Baptist. We have 9 members and 2 Scout Masters here. They are working on their Building a Better World Merit Badge. So if you guys would like to come up and have your picture taken, you're more than welcome to do so. Thank you for coming. It's kind of nice having the Scouts back.
It is nice having the Scouts back. Okay, you gotta kind of get together here. There you go.
Perfect. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Don't leave.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, now moving on to our citizens' requests. We do have a couple of citizens who are not, or a couple of non-residents who wish to speak to the council this evening, so I would entertain a motion to suspend our rules of order to allow for our non-residents to speak.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Our first speaker is Kevin Baird, who requests to speak to the council regarding IPL's RFP for replacement generation. Mr. Baird, you will have 2 minutes this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Kevin Baird, a resident of the 3rd District. My comments, thoughts, and opinions shared with you tonight are my own and do not reflect those of my employer, family, or friends. I feel it necessary to again disclose I'm actively employed by our neighboring electric utility, but again must stress I am here on my own behalf as an engaged member of this community. I am extremely disappointed in this council's November 1st decision to proceed with spending $50,000 on the RFP to evaluate proposals for new fossil fuel generation within our city limits. A city so strapped for cash sure does like to burn up dollars in interesting ways. Leaders across the globe spent the last few weeks hammering out concessions and agreements to move the world closer to a carbon-free future, while here in Independence, where reality is on vacation, 2 + 2 = 5 and upside-down logic runs amok. How else can you explain such a decision to proceed with procuring new fossil fuel generation instead of forming a strategy to move away from fossil fuels like the rest of the civilized world? Maybe you think the RFP is just one step in the long process to form this strategy, but if that's the case, there's zero evidence to suggest anything like that will happen. How else can you explain the fact that this RFP specifically calls out a transition to cleaner fuel would need to be considered in the future?
You have 1 minute.
That's an additional price tag on this plan because the turbines would have to be converted to burn hydrogen, assuming that's still a viable plan a decade from now. Have any of you stopped to consider these things? It was noted just last week to those who bothered to show up to the study session that status quo, and this is quote, status quo is not going to make things look different out there. Yet nothing screams of status quo more than replacing gas and oil-fired turbines with new and shinier gas and oil-fired turbines. What a shame. I'd encourage you all to look up the Brookings Institution article from this weekend, which had the
Mr.
headline.
Baird,
Yes.
your 2 minutes are up, so if you would please wrap up your remarks.
Yep.
Thank you.
I look forward to discussing this in more detail with you and my neighbors in future meetings. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for coming. Our next speaker is Henry Carter, who wishes to speak to the council regarding Resolution 21. I don't believe it's a resolution, not an ordinance action item, 21-826. This is regarding the retiree health insurance. Mr. Carter, you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to talk tonight. As a member of the Laggers Retirees, we want to come here and express our appreciation for the resolution that was introduced and for the council members that introduced that resolution. It looks like you heard our plea that we wanted to end the contract with New Synergy. We had a lot of problems we expressed, and to bring the administration of our retirees' health care back into the city. And we have an amendment that's going to be introduced tonight that we're asking that you support that. And we want to, the amendment was the product of discussions with City Manager Zach Walker and Assistant City Manager Adam Norris, and they, we appreciate their efforts at helping us find a solution and the language for an amendment that'll be before you tonight. So it's our plea that you would embrace that, and we, in advance, thank you for listening to us, hearing what we had to say, and thank you for the action you'll take tonight to solve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marla Kimsey, who wishes to speak to the council regarding New Synergy on behalf of the Independence Loggers retirees.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Mayor, city council, city employees, and the Independence Loggers retirees, thanks for coming. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Marla Kimsey, and I come before you tonight to request that you vote yes on non-ordinance action item number 2, number 21826, the amended resolution. Section 1 requests the termination of the new Synergy contract effective January 17th, 2022, and resumption of administering retiree benefits in-house. New Synergy has, by multiple deeds, made errors that have resulted in the emotional abuse of both retirees and current employees of the City of Independence, including release of a print file containing multiple letters advising retirees that their medical, dental, and life insurance benefits were canceled, a separate letter for each benefit. Release of this personal information to an outsourced printing vendor who now has access to that information. There has never been any explanation of this error. New Synergy has failed to send a second letter, promised on October 18th, to retirees explaining this was an error and no benefits have been canceled, and there has never been an explanation of their failure to send this letter. We have to date one person who believes they received this second letter in error, but they threw it in the trash because they were so upset. We do not know if there is any financial abuse that has occurred for retirees as a result of retirees that receiving the first letter. Today is November 15th, almost a month later, and the city manager is now going to send a letter, which we appreciate, to all retirees guaranteeing insurance has not been canceled. Thank you, Zach. Section 2 provides a cloud-based software needed by the city to process retiree benefit payments. This requirement replaces technology the city is no longer able to use. I close with these two comments. Retirees do not object to change that is required to update and modernize technology. They have trusted the city with the care and protection of their personal information and the control of this information in a professional manner to be administered as needed. The employees of this city have also been emotionally challenged because of the unprofessional conduct of New Synergy. They have spent many of the city's man hours fielding phone calls from frustrated and nervous retirees, and I am sure it has been difficult to complete normal working activities. When they have not been able to answer phone calls, they have left messages on their phones to advise retirees their benefits have not been canceled, with a promise to return phone calls in 3 days. They auto-initiate email messages to retirees to advise them they will return the messages within 3 business days. How sad for them. We want to tell all of the retirees and all the employees of this city that we are truly sorry to each and every person that has been affected by the actions of this company, and we remain hopeful for an outcome that restores confidence for every person. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bob Sorensen, who wishes to speak on retiree update on open enrollment. Mr. Sorensen, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. I can't compete with her. She did a great job. What I wanted to address tonight is open enrollment. I'm going to just really quickly give you a scenario, and I'm using my wife and I as the guinea pigs for this. We're going to pretend for a minute that a few years back I retired from the City of Independence and I moved to Colorado for my retirement. A few months ago I passed away, and my wife now receives 50% of my logger's pay. On or about October 14th, my wife receives a letter from a company named New Synergy that she's never heard of. Her health insurance has been canceled. On or about October 16th, my wife receives again 2 more letters from the same company saying that her life and dental insurance has been canceled. She might try to call both the city and New Synergy, but at that point in time, the city phones were being bombarded, and so was New Synergy, and she'd be lucky if she could get through. And if she did, she might find out that the letters were false. If she did not find out that, she might be going out shopping for health insurance and purchasing it. As in most families, one person usually takes care of the finances. She probably remembers that we have always received packets from the city in regards to health insurance in October to make selections for the next year. She waits for a packet to arrive, but never receives one. We'll move forward to January, comes around of next year, and she sees on her bank statement that she has a deduction for health insurance and realizes that she now still has health insurance through the City of Independence, but she also sees that the premium is considerably higher. Hopefully, financially, she can afford that premium. She then goes and does her visit to the eye doctor, her annual visit to get glasses. She goes in and she finds out at that point she has no vision insurance. She was never told. It's caught her completely off guard. She's never been aware that she did not have vision insurance as she had in the past. This is just a scenario. Yes, I am still alive, and my wife does not live in Colorado. We are both members of the retiree group and know what has been going on.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, the retiree group has 700 members who we keep informed of all the situations, but yet there are 500 retirees that are not members and have no knowledge of any of this. They have no, okay, wait a minute. They have no idea that new plans are available or what the premiums are. They are not aware of the vision plan being removed from the pre-65 health insurance. I would think that you would all agree that this is unacceptable and not the way open enrollment is supposed to be handled. The Assistant City Manager is currently working with our group to mail a letter to all retirees. Open enrollment has been extended to November 23rd in hopes of reaching all retirees with this letter explaining what has occurred. I am not confident that they will have time or the information needed to make an informed decision. We can never let this happen again. I want to thank you for allowing me to present that to you.
Thank you. Our next speaker. Our next speaker is Lisa Wright, who wishes to speak to the council regarding supporting the support of conversion therapy ban. Ms. Wright.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Lisa Wright. I'm not a member of this community. I am a Christian, a wife, a mother of 5, and the president of Kansas City chapter of PFLAG, which is a support group of parents, families, and friends of the LGBT community. I have one child that lives in Independence and is blessing me with a grandchild in just a few short weeks. I also have 2 children who identify as members of the LGBTQ+ community. When a member of the LGBTQ community is rejected by family members or faith and community leaders, their health and well-being pay a serious price. When you reject an LGBTQ person, they can experience depression, anxiety, stress, or worse, and conversion therapy is rejecting LGBTQ youth for who they are. People in Missouri depend on the law to protect them from harm. Without a law to ban dangerous and discredited practices to convert or change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity, well-meaning but misinformed parents and caregivers of LGBTQ youth have been enrolling their children in junk science therapies. I am glad this council is considering a ban on conversion therapy. I want to thank Mayor Weir for recognizing the importance of this conversion therapy ban. I hope state leaders will follow this example so that every Missourian LGBTQ person is protected from dangerous and discredited practices that try to change who they inherently are. God did not create my children to hate my children. God did not create these amazing beings for someone to try to change who they love or who they are. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our final speaker tonight is Chris Fairbank, who wishes to speak to the council regarding sales tax. Mr. Fairbank.
Madam Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager, my name is Chris Fairbank. I represent the Firefighters of Independence, IFF Local 781. I'm here on behalf of the firefighters to thank the citizens and those who supported and came out and endorsed the fire protection sales tax that passed on November 2nd. As stated before, this tax will go towards staffing deficiency that directly affect our response times to the citizens of Independence. Additionally, it will go to the building of new stations and further decrease our response times to the southeast part of our city and replace current outdated stations. Finally, the tax will help outfit our firefighters with the necessary life-saving equipment to do their job. Independence firefighters are truly grateful for the citizen support for our fire department. We look forward to closely working with our administration over the coming months in developing and implementing our plan outlined in the sales tax ordinance. These changes will help our department meet the demand and emergency services within our city and provide the citizens with the public safety they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other citizens who wish to speak to the council this evening? Okay. Following is our consent agenda, the reports and recommendations of the city manager. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor Weir, I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any items any council member wishes pulled for separate consideration?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
1 and 3.
Any others? Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus item number 1 and item number 3?
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Councilmember DeLucci?
1 and 3 is a big thank you to the Department of Health. Together, we're getting funds of over $750,000. And I want the citizens to know how hard they worked. They did a great job, and I am fully in favor of it. And thank you, Ms. Heinen. I move approval of item 1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Item number 1 passes. Councilmember DeLucci?
I move for approval of item 3.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Item number 3 passes. We have 2 public hearings this evening. The first is a public hearing for the application by Driven Assets LLC requesting a rezoning from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C2 General Commercial for the properties located at 16912 and 16914 East 23rd Street and 2221 South M 291 South M20, I think you have that written twice, 2221 South M29 Highway. This is new information only. Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Rick Arroyo, the Assistant Community Development Director here at the city. Planning Commission did hear this on October 12th, and Planning Commission did recommend in favor of this amendment. This rezoning would take the northeast corner of 291 and 23rd Street from a C1 to a C2 general commercial in anticipation of a redevelopment site, including an oil change business. I have no new information to provide.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-075, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District C1 Neighborhood Commercial to District C2 General Commercial for 16912 and 16914 East 23rd Street South and 2221 South M291 Highway in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes. Our next public hearing is for the application by Branson Fryer requesting a rezoning from C2 General Commercial to R6 Single Family Residential for the property located at 1207 South Main Street. This is new information only. Mr. Arroyo.
Thank you again. This rezoning was considered by Planning Commission on October 12th. Planning Commission did recommend in favor of this rezoning. There's currently a residential home at this location that's legal non-conforming. This rezoning would correct that and allow the property owner to take out some financing to rehab that house. I have no new information to add.
Are there any comments or questions from the council on the public hearing? Public hearing is closed. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-076, an ordinance approving a rezoning from District C2 General Commercial to District R6 Single Family Residential for 1207 South Main Street in Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes. Non-ordinance action items. Madam City Clerk.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes,
What?
Councilmember Perkins.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone indefinitely non-ordinance item number 1. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone item number 1 indefinitely. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, motion passes. Item number 2.
Bill number 21-826, a resolution directing the city manager to immediately cancel the contract with New Synergy, Inc. and resume processing retiree benefits in-house.
Is there discussion on this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, looks like they worked out a deal. Thank you to Mr. Walker and Mr. Norris, and I'd like to amend, I'd like to for 21/8/26 to change dates each regarding administrative retiree benefits, provided resolution. So basically, we're just putting
Okay, so let me just repeat that because you were breaking up a little bit. So the motion was to amend Bill number 21-826 to change the effective dates and language regarding administering retiree benefits as supplied in the provided resolution, which the council has received a copy of in our packet this afternoon.
Second.
So that's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Mr. City Manager, I just want to be clear that this, so that those who did not receive this, this is a change from what was in our published packet to the public, that this would terminate the retiree benefits administration services provided by New Synergy by January 17th, 2022. Can you tell us what the significance is of that particular date?
As we continue to close out open enrollment, which we're going to be extending, as you heard this evening, that through November the 23rd for our retiree population, and then making some additional extensions into the new year on the vision portion. We are not going to be having that administration occur by the New Synergy company. That will be brought in-house and handled by city staff to take care of that. But we have to have a mechanism by which to utilize the data entry, the management of funds, et cetera, while we're migrating our retiree population back into our software systems. So the significance of that date is we think we'll be done using the third-party software. Our city staff will be done using that by that date, and then have our retirees fully migrated back into a system that's internal and our staff will use just like they do for active employees moving forward.
Okay. This resolution also directs the city manager to terminate the contract with New Synergy for retiree benefit administration and resume administering those in-house as you just described. Is that also by January 17th, 2022, or is there a different date for that to occur?
That will occur as soon as possible. So
Okay.
when enrollment closes on the 23rd, staff will immediately go to work on making sure everybody's selections and changes to their benefits choices have been properly entered, and verify that those have been properly entered, and that may occur before. That January date is what we think would be worst case scenario to get all of that done.
Okay. And then lastly, the payment processing, as the speaker mentioned earlier, would be processed by a cloud-based software. Do we already own that software? There's no financial note on this in terms of we don't have to purchase a software? That's something that we already have available?
No, and as the council will recall, we have upgraded and migrated our existing workforce into a new in-house software system known as Munis, for those of you that have heard about the conversion with that software system. The retirees were being handled in the New Synergy process. We are going to use that external software system to finish their open enrollment and then complete the process of porting them over into our new Munis system so that they will be handled the same as our active employees for every other open enrollment moving forward.
Okay. So this is, you had sent a memo by email to the council a couple weeks ago explaining that there was this issue that had arisen with miscommunication going out, and you had essentially informed us that these were the actions that you would be taking.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So this is reflective of the communication that you had with the retiree group and with the council, a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would.
Yep,
My
mostly
memory
reflective
serves.
of all of that. I would say probably the big nuanced difference is, as Bob would tell you, we use the word intent to terminate, and Bob intends to go to Alaska someday.
Yeah,
found out.
gotcha. Okay, so we're gonna do it.
We're
Okay,
gonna do it.
got it.
Right.
I think that's in here. We're gonna do
so
it. Right.
we've guzzled quite a bit of coffee, and I think we've got it where we understand each other now.
Very good. Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item passes.
We need a motion to approve the item now. That was a motion
Oh,
to
I'm
approve the
sorry.
amendment.
My fault. Okay, we do need a motion. It's
So
been moved
moved.
and seconded.
Second.
Okay. Now we can call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Amendment passes. Okay, Madam City Clerk, this brings us to our second readings.
Bill number 21-074, an ordinance authorizing execution of a cooperative agreement for payment of funds from City of Kansas City, Missouri to City of Independence, Missouri for the purpose of construction of the North Kentucky Avenue Bridge over Rock Creek Improvement Project, second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Long time coming. Won't go into big. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Long time coming. Won't go into the deep scrolls of how we got here, but several years ago, bridge was found to be deficient. After some scrambling, trying to figure it out, it literally became a bridge that was half in Independence and half in Kansas City. Fast forward a couple city managers later on the Kansas City side, a couple of council people on the Kansas City side. We finally got this agreement carved out, hashed out. I think we've got some really good movement here for that. Contingent that after we vote on it, then Kansas City Council, they must agree to this as well. So I will get on the phone tomorrow, call my counterpart, Councilman Bunch, over there to let them know that we're done, to take this action and move it forward on their side. So we're looking to do design in hopefully in December and get this bidded out and get this moving in 23, 24-ish. So thank you, Mr. City Manager and your staff for hammering away at this.
Very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-077, an ordinance approving the Chapter 353 redevelopment plan for the Cargo Largo project, declaring the area described in the redevelopment plan to be blighted area, taking other actions to implement the redevelopment plan, and approving a redevelopment agreement. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Hobart.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Very briefly, this is going to be Mr. Pact is going to add a 575,000 square foot building to that area, and up to, he thinks, 400 extra jobs. So I just wanted to say that this is a fantastic project for Independence. He does a pallet auction once a week that brings like 1,200 people to the facility. He's consolidating a bunch of buildings that are in Kansas City, but now will all be in Independence. So this is, when it gets done and is full speed ahead, it is going to be a huge benefit, economic benefit to the city in a lot of ways. So I'm really proud of city staff for putting it together and Mr. Pack being able to pull off this expansion, and just look forward to it. So I'm obviously in favor.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I've had a few folks in my district call about concerns with some traffic issues and some of the financing that are being arranged for the project, not that they're opposed to it. I think what would be in their best interest is if we could just give our constituents, our public, a couple weeks just to digest some of this. If we can bring it back to the next council meeting, I would like to see that happen if that's a possibility. So I'd like to move that the vote be postponed for 2 weeks, just to bring some clarity and some transparency to all the there's a lot of information on here. So just want to make sure everybody's clear on how we're approaching the project. I think it's a good project too, but because of its location, the traffic concerns, I'm getting some calls, and just folks would just like to look at it a little bit more.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone. Similar to what Councilmember Perkins just said about the Kentucky Avenue Bridge, this has been a project we have worked on for at least a decade. In my time on this council, we've been working on this particular project following certainly a long period of time of trying to identify another developer to utilize this land surrounding the current facility. This has been vetted by our Planning Commission. It's been vetted by our Incentives Commission. It's been discussed and endorsed by our Economic Development Council. It's gone through an enormous amount of scrutiny by Mr. Pack, the owner, including many discussions, of course, with our independent school district that has Truman High School right across the street, our city staff who has conducted the traffic studies. So I am not in favor of postponing this any longer. It's had an incredible amount of scrutiny through all the appropriate channels and received unanimous support from the Planning Commission, from our Incentives Commission, and the endorsement of our Economic Development Council. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
so I've kind of heard some of the same concerns about some of the incentives that are being offered. Now, please don't get me wrong, I think this would be good for the city. Has this been, I mean, have we did anything with like a study session, or can we have, City Manager, can somebody come up and explain to like general public the incentives that are happening for this? Do you have somebody available?
We've not had a study session, as the mayor said. It was at the Incentives Commission level, I believe, twice for hearings. So we didn't bring it to this group for a study session.
I would like to see a study session on it, so I'm going to be voting yes on to postpone it.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. City Manager, just so we're clear, there's no TIF involved here.
Correct.
So the cost of the city is what?
We are proposing to abate property taxes, which that impacts the other taxing jurisdictions. The cost to the city comes in the deferral of the sales tax revenue from the new incremental increase that would be generated for the street sales tax fund. We're proposing in this package to utilize those new sales tax revenues collected from the street sales tax portion only to build the public roads that access the site and within the site, et cetera.
Do you have any hesitation in recommending this?
I don't, just simply because of the level of vetting that's taken place to this point, and in line with the council's adopted economic development incentives policy, fell in line with that too. So once we placed it on the agenda, that's reflective of our endorsement as city staff, recommending approval, I should say.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just another question. Mr. Walker, and when we talk about the tax abatement, for how long is it?
It's staggered. It starts out more aggressively in the first 5 years and then winds down between 6 and 10 and 11 and 15.
Well, let's go ahead and vote on the postponement, I guess, if that's okay.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion to postpone?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I was planning commission forever and a day, like 15 years, and we went through everything with Cargo Largo, and we went through all the traffic studies and all that stuff, and we brought it up here, and up here said, sure. And then 208 happened, and that was not a good time for anybody. And so here we are today, and so DeLucci actually read a traffic study, and I'm so impressed. There is one D. Everything else is A, B, and C. It is a very good project. I don't want to be difficult saying I don't want to wait, but I don't want 2008 to happen again, so I want to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion to postpone? Hearing none, please call the roll on the motion.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
No.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
No.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
No.
Mayor Weir.
No. Motion fails. Is there any further discussion on the ordinance?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Since I have a cousin that is a manager at Cargo Largo, he is a first cousin, and I spoke with Jeremy, and I don't know if he would benefit from it at all, so I will abstain from voting, just to avoid any conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Abstain.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-078, an ordinance approving the development agreement between D&J Realty Holdings LLC and the City of Independence, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Just to be clear, this is part of the Cargo Largo as well, so I abstain.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-079, an ordinance limiting the depth of 2 existing easements on the property Lot 2 and Winterstone Underground First Plat, a subdivision in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, ordinance passes.
Bill number 21-080, an ordinance creating section 12.06.008 of the Independent City Code for the prohibition of conversion therapy of minors. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Stewart.
I actually had a couple of questions for the city councilor, if he's familiar. Have you read this ordinance?
No? You want to come up here, Jeremy?
Yes, I have read the ordinance, and also, the city prosecutor, Mitch Langford, is here also.
Okay.
He's also been, thank you.
I got two.
Well, whoever can answer my questions will be fine. So the ordinance, it looks like churches can still perform conversion therapy, is that correct?
I'm sorry, sir, could you repeat that one more time?
It looks like churches can still perform conversion therapy under this ordinance, is that correct? Churches, religious institutions.
Oh, churches, I'm sorry, I thought you said charges, I wasn't clear on that. Okay, what was the second part of that question, then churches
They can still perform conversion therapy under this ordinance, is that correct?
Not as I understand it, no.
Does it not give them an exemption?
It depends on what they're doing.
Okay, can you,
If they're
what can they still do under
If
this
they're
ordinance?
acting in the capacity as a provider as defined by the ordinance, then they can be prosecuted.
Okay, what if they're not acting as a provider, then they can't be.
If they're not acting as a provider, then there's a definition in there talking about the pastoral or pastoral capacity, that they can certainly communicate with someone who's struggling with their situation, as long as they're not actively trying to convert them. So there's no exemption. Depends on how you define the word provider and how I would charge a violator in the instance. But no, they're not exempt.
Okay, so what if somebody goes and sees let's say you have a minor and they're part of the LGBT community and they're experiencing distress for whatever reason, and they go and see a licensed therapist. Can the licensed therapist be prosecuted for that?
Depends on the circumstances, but yes.
What circumstances could they be prosecuted for? I mean, if they're just talking to them, traditional talk therapy, they're not trying to convert them, could they?
Again, it depends on the circumstances. It depends on what they're talking about. I'd have to have, before I could proceed on a case like that, I would have to sit down with the minor, with the parents present, to talk to them about what was going on. Prosecuting a case under this ordinance is going to be extremely difficult, because it's going to depend on the testimony of a minor with the parents present as to what was communicated in the meetings with the provider.
Okay.
It's going to be very subjective.
Okay, so normally, something like that, patient, provider confidentiality would be in effect. Would it not? I mean, how could a therapist actually defend themselves if they couldn't talk about the case?
I haven't gotten that far into it yet, in terms of, and that's going to be a defense issue that they would have to raise. If the client wanted to come and talk to me about it, they could. If the provider wants to raise the defense of client's confidentiality and they don't want to speak, they certainly can too. They could also plead the Fifth Amendment if they wanted to as well. So I don't know how a defendant would handle that situation. I've never seen this played out in court. I've never seen it.
Are you familiar with any cases that have been prosecuted?
I have been doing this for 20 years for the city, and no one's ever talked to me about conversion therapy. I've never been contacted. That's not to say it doesn't exist and it's not happening right now, but I've never been contacted. And I've talked to prosecutors in other cities that have this ordinance or a similar ordinance. It hasn't gone through them either. These are going to be very difficult cases to prove if they're brought to municipality. I think it's a good ordinance to have, because you're not going to get the state of Missouri to pass anything like this anytime soon. So it's going to be up to municipalities. And it's a very powerful message to send regarding our stance as a city. I wish the state would do it. They're not going to. It's up to the municipalities. I think it's a great ordinance to have. We've got a number of ordinances that in the 20 years of doing this, I've never, ever charged anybody with. But they're on the books because they're good ordinances to have, because it's a good policy to have.
How many prosecutors do you have that work under you?
I do this all by myself.
You do it all by yourself?
We have one assistant that does domestic violence.
So if a case came before you like this, would you have the resources to do it thoroughly?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to toss this in, and Mr. Cover might be able to support this if he wants, but typically when a person accuses a professional or somebody with a licensure of misconduct or malpractice, or makes an allegation against the substance of the service, that provider, lawyers, doctors, therapists, have the right to violate privilege in order to defend themselves. So, in other words, if somebody walks in and says, they tried to convert me, this therapist tried to convert me, the therapist can come back and say, here's my notes, here's the recording I made, and it didn't happen. So you have the right to defend yourself. In other words, the person making the allegation has effectively waived privilege at that point.
Mr. Cover, would you agree to that?
That's my general understanding. I will tell you I don't have any specific experience with how those defenses are brought, but yes, I would agree with that statement.
Mr. Langford, how long have we been holding domestic violence dockets in the City of Independence?
Since before I started,
So at least 20 years.
at least.
Were there domestic violence dockets 40 years ago?
We could contact my predecessor, Chuck Sandage, but I would imagine it started at some point in the 70s or 80s, but I honestly don't know.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Steinmeier,
Yes.
Hobart,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes. Ordinance passes. Okay, this brings us to our first readings, and we do have one appropriation ordinance that will receive 2 readings and be voted on tonight. Madam City Clerk.
Bill number 21-081, an ordinance amending section 1.35.003 of the Independent City Code pertaining to structure of the Advisory Board of Health. Bill number 21-515, an ordinance adopting amendments to the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget, which was approved by ordinance number 19131. Bill number 21-515, an ordinance adopting amendments to the fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budget, which was approved by ordinance number 19131. Second and final reading.
Is there any discussion on this bill?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
yes, I would like to know about Section 7 of the fund, the unassigned fund balances. I would like to know of the event center or the spectrum out there of the $139,050. I'd like to know what that money went for by line, but what it actually went for, and not just a broad services and this type of thing. I'd like to know what $139,000 was spent for, or is being allocated.
Mr. City Manager?
I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay.
Well, how am I supposed to vote on something I don't know where it's going? Is there anyone there that can tell me where this money is going?
I'm sorry, Councilman Huff, will you say again where the section that you're looking at?
Section 7, unassigned fund balance, and I'm looking at the event center, spectrum, $139,050. And I'm wanting to know what that money is spent for. Besides saying audit service doesn't do it for me.
Okay.
And I went through and read the stuff, and there's nothing that tells me stuff actually is very, very vague. And so I would just like to know what that money's spent for. There's a few others in there too. I've kind of ciphered through them. But this particular one, I can't find any documentation.
So, Madam City Clerk, although appropriation ordinances may receive 2 readings and be voted on at the same meeting, it's not necessary that we vote on this at this meeting, although you've read it twice. Can we treat this as a first reading, get these questions supplied and answered, and vote on this in the next council meeting?
Yeah, I think that's acceptable. I think maybe a motion would be most appropriate to go ahead and just do it as a first reading this meeting and do a second reading at the next meeting.
There seem to be some questions that we're not going to be able to get answered this evening, so I would move to postpone second reading till, what's the date?
December 6th.
December 6th. Thank you. Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second? I'm sorry. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Steinmeier.
Yes.
Hobart.
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, motion passes. This brings us to our council member comments. I'll start with Councilman Huff.
Well, I don't have anything this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilman Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday was a good time, a little bit cold, a little windy, but we did have the square Christmas lighting, which was fun. And we also had the unveiling of the President Truman statue. It's the version with that of him being in the military. So that was a fun night, fun event. It's good to see everybody getting out for the holidays.
Very good. Councilman Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question for the city manager. We used to receive reports of everything that was spent below your threshold, which was one time $100,000 and lowered to $50,000. I haven't seen those in a while. Are you not providing those anymore? Or?
We do those on a monthly or quarterly. Oh, it wasn't in that, it wasn't in the ordinance to require us to continue providing that.
Okay. Well, I'd still like to see them, so maybe I'll do an amendment to change
If I could
the
get
ordinance.
direction from the council on that, we'd be happy to.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember DeLucci.
Well, I was going to thank the Truman Statue on Liberty and Maple. It is wonderful. People go by it. It's really great. Number 2, I messed up and forgot to thank tourism. The tourism department also received a grant of $55,000, and I thank them for working so hard for us for that. And number 3, thank you to the retirees and the city staff for working so hard to round everything up with everybody. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Councilmember Steinmeier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Walker, you look tired.
Well, I went to my best friend's mom's funeral today.
I'm sorry to hear that. I am sorry. I thought since you'd worked all week, you were feeling a lot of exhaustion. I appreciate the efforts that you made working through the weekend with the retirees. I'm sorry to hear about the loss in your family. I wanted to ask a couple things on your week-ending update. if
Sure,
I could.
please.
A couple things that concern me were just where you attached a communication issuing potentially high utility bills due to the exponentially rising cost of natural gas associated supply chain issues. We've had, gosh, I think it was last November, wasn't it, when we got hacked? And we went through all of the bill stacking and folks went through a tough time, and then we rolled right into February, had the rolling blackouts. I agree. We have the potential of having some turbulent water ahead of us and for utility costs. Couldn't come at a worse time. I think you'd agree with that. With the rising fuel costs, it's costing more people just to go to work, which means they make less. Grocery costs are are higher. Now we're looking at higher utility bills. I worry about our little grandmas in our community who are on fixed incomes. What, you know, how are we going to do this? The part that troubled me a little bit was, you know, we started talking last February, March about hedging and forecasting properly for the coming winter. And when I read this, I kind of got deflated. I was kind of hoping we'd have some better talking points and that we would be able to discuss what the plan with the IPL is in terms of what they've done in the last 6 months for hedging higher costs and even for their forecasting model. So I would like at some point very, very soon before this cold weather hits and we're starting to get hit with higher energy costs, if we could have Mr. Nail come in or someone from IPL come in and start talking about what they've been doing over the past 6 months to prepare for this scenario that we talked about back in February and March. Well, let's be reminded we went through it in June as well. For folks that don't remember, we went from winter right into summer, melting weather. I mean, it was just hot, and even Evergy was covered in the Star about how they were, if you were on their energy savings program, you had their thermostat, they were turning temperatures up all the way from Wichita up north of here. That's what smart meters will get you in AMI. But I just want to know what our plan going forward. I am not going to just accept that they're coming and therefore we just should pay the bill and just be happy that we have it. We should have been planning for this as we asked. And I'd like to know going forward what the plan is. So if you could help us with that so folks understand what's coming, I would greatly appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, we'll tee that up for a presentation to the council.
Okay. And then just one last thing. You know, I wasn't here. I wasn't feeling well last week for the study session. But when you laid out that, you know, we have revenue concerns. You know, when I looked at the tax rates of our city, I was sitting and thinking to myself, what a great community we have in terms of affordability. We've been saying this a long time. We have affordable housing. Our taxes aren't high here. You know, revenue problems, I think we should be asking the question, why, since we are so affordable, why aren't people coming here? Why are they electing to live in Lee Summit and Blue Springs and Liberty, where everything's more expensive? And so some of that is just having a broader perspective of the challenges that we've had. I think our citizens have talked about feeling safe in their community. They're talking about blight. They're talking about how our city is looking. And I think we need to develop a better strategy and plan moving forward. If we're serious about building revenue, we do have our own utilities, which should be a major leverage for this city. And we shouldn't have any excuse for not being able to attract capital investment, but we're struggling with that. And I think we need to really start talking about and working on a plan moving forward, how we can leverage the tremendous asset of a utility company. Nobody else has that. So we should be very attractive for capital investment and for people that want to come in, new home developments, all of it. We need to really, as a council, we really need to help you help our community. And so I would like for us to get more focused on how to generate revenue without raising taxes. Because I think if you start raising taxes on our community, they're going to move. And we can ill afford that. Then we'll have a real crisis. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Hobart.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and this will take a minute, but not 10. First, I wanted to thank Marla Kimsey personally for getting up and speaking in public. It is not her favorite thing to do, but she loves her retirees, and she loves her people, and she loves Bob, and so they came together and helped. And I know her and all the leadership in Loggers helped with Mr. Walker and his staff, and it's unfortunate that we had to have the conversation, that you had to have the conversation, but you did, and we've got a good path moving forward. So that's once again hopeful. So thank you very much for all that was involved in that. Now, most importantly, John Cruzy is here tonight, and his wife Tara Cruzy is not, but she did promise to be watching. And I told her that tonight I would repeat in not so many words the apology that I gave. Mike Janae is sitting right in front of me. He's a reporter for the Examiner, and he wrote an article about this in the paper last week. Some of you may have seen it on her Facebook page too. On October 4th, I went on a bit of a rant. That's what people are calling it. And there were a number of people that were upset with me, and certainly primarily was Tara and possibly John Cruzy. And I didn't care at the time. I wasn't really interested in people that didn't agree with me on what I said or how I said it. On November 2nd, the date of the election, I ran into Ms. Cruzy at a polling place, and as mad as she was at me, and as sort of I don't know about aggressive, but confrontational as I was that day, she still was willing to take the time and explain to me what her position was and what I had said meant to her. And one of the smarter things I did was shut my mouth and listen. So she explained to me that that not only did I come across as condescending and arrogant and those type of things, but she explained to me that what she heard was that I was telling citizens they did not have a voice in local government. And I can tell you that was absolutely not my intent. It's not my belief. I have spent my career fighting for people to have rights and constitutional rights and getting in big giant fights with people smarter than me about rights. And I believe that government is by the people and for the people. I firmly believe that. And for me to come across as not believing that was a huge mistake. It was an error, and I absolutely apologize for that, 100%. I've said that to Ms. Cruzy to her face, and if she was here, I'd say it to her, but John's here and her best friend is here. So, you know, I just want to make sure people understand that. And even if you don't like me, or if you were still upset about that day, feel free to reach out and get a hold of me. I'll happily sit down and have this conversation with you. The second thing is, the separate issue, but included, was the issue of body cameras. And I know Acting Chief Jarnigan's in the back there. There are a lot of policemen that want body cameras. There are command staff that want body cameras. There are citizens that want body cameras. And absolutely, at some point, independents should catch up and get body cameras. To be very clear, I'm not against body cameras. As a defense lawyer, 23 years I've made my living off of police, and sometimes errors, and sometimes misunderstandings, and sometimes poorly written reports, and all the things that the Chief Jarnigan does to try to train his officers not to make. Mr. Cover has spent his career on the same side as that, so has Mitch Langford. So video saves us all, right? Like, if you can see what happens on a video, it takes a lot of the ambiguity out of things. So not only personally do I think body cams are fine, but professionally it makes a difference to me too. So I just want to make that clear. The big issue is we need to find a way to budget that money and have the ongoing cost in the budget. So hopefully that'll be increased priority after this, and we will find a way sometime soon to get people outfitted so that our police feel safe, so that our citizens feel safe, and so that you know, we can be brought up to speed with other departments. Hopefully this hasn't been 10 minutes, a little bit less, I hope, but I appreciate you all for listening, and anyway, take care.
Thank you. Hang in there, because I got a number of things to say as well, but I'll try to go quickly. First, I wanted to draw attention on the information-only portion of our agenda that our Health Department Operations Committee has concluded its work. You'll remember during our budgeting process, there was quite a bit of discussion among the council about how to fund the health department. So under the authority that I have under the city code, I created a special committee of 3 council members, which is myself, Councilmember Hobart, Councilmember DeLucci, 3 members of our Advisory Board of Health, who were Dr. Ralph Ruckman, Dr. Terry Morris, and Mr. Jason White, along with our health department and city manager staff to discuss what we want this newly formed health department, newly reorganized health department to look like and how we wanted that to function. Unfortunately, Councilmember DeLucci was taking care of her own health while we were meeting, so was unable to attend any of the meetings, but we only met 4 or 5 times. We're very well prepared, really got straight down to business. And in our packet tonight is a summary of the work that we did, and now it is in the hands of our city manager to begin to implement these priorities that were expressed by the health department as he starts to prepare for the budget and some other functions. So I wanted to thank everybody for their participation. We got a lot of work done in a short amount of time, and we're very eager. At some point in time, the city manager will bring back before the council some recommendations of adoption, and that will certainly be a part of the budgeting process as well. So we have certainly come a long way in the last about 11 months since we were recognized by the state of Missouri as a local public health authority, and it's something that we're very proud that we were able to secure and assure the community that we will continue to make public health a big priority and operate this health department in an efficient and, I think importantly, a sustainable way, so we do not find ourselves back in a situation where we are lacking the resources to provide the best possible public health that we can. Councilman Perkins failed to mention the Englewood Lighting will be happening on Friday. The third Friday Art Walk is this Friday in the Englewood Arts District. We will be doing a holiday lighting in Englewood. This year we have 4 mayor's Christmas trees around the community, so I challenge you to find any city in America that has 4 trees. And so one is up here at the Uptown Market, one is in Englewood, there's one at the Independence Utilities Center, and there's one at the Cable Dahmer Arena. So we tried to put one in a lot of different areas of the city so everybody in our community could come out and enjoy those. We typically, a long-time tradition in Independence has been the Mayor's Christmas Concert, which we have not been able to have the last couple of years. We're not having it this year. It's a really fun opportunity, and probably some of you up here performed in the Mayor's Christmas Concert when you were in 4th grade. Councilman Hobart, I'm sure you were one of those 4th graders sitting in the auditorium from whatever elementary school you were at.
John W. Luff.
Luff Elementary. So this was a tradition started by Mayor Barbara Potts and has carried on all these many years. So the 4th graders aren't able to do that, and I felt like that was a big disappointment for them, something that they're probably looking forward to, and their siblings and their neighbors got to do it and they don't. Shirley Murdoch's not here anymore, but pray for me because I am visiting every 4th grade classroom. So I will be going to every 4th grade classroom in the Independent School District and delivering little kits for the 4th graders to make biodegradable, animal-friendly ornaments to place on the mayor's Christmas tree at the Independence Utilities Center. So that's something that's going to be really neat, and when that's completed, I encourage you to go out there and look at the ornaments that the fourth graders have created. Finally, and Councilman Steinmeier hit on it absolutely perfectly, about how to generate revenue without raising taxes and attract capital investment to our community. Mr. Pack, we took a huge step in doing that tonight with your project, and thank you for your investment in Independence, for bringing all of your operations here to Nolan Road, bringing all of those jobs and a major, major improvement to our city. I know it's been a very long process, and we are truly, truly grateful for you being able to work with us through all this and get us to this point in time. I'm very pleased to say that the activity around economic development is quite robust right now. We've had a number of conversations with businesses that are exploring Independence, no announcements to make, and certainly the EDC is continuing to field a lot of calls as well. So I'm very excited about that. Certainly the federal infrastructure bill that was approved and is being signed gives us a lot of opportunity, particularly with our utilities, to leverage those utilities. We will be having discussions soon with our lobbyists in Jefferson City about how to leverage some of the state funding that's available through grants that may be available for things related particularly to our utilities. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity out there, and I'm eager to explore all of those opportunities as well. So that concludes my remarks. Mr. City Manager, anything else this evening?
Mr. Sorensen had nice things to say, and I want to make sure, Bob, thank you for, one of these days I'd like to have a cup of coffee with you where we're just visiting about anything other than health insurance. But I do apologize to you and the other retirees for the confusion around the letters that went out. And as you mentioned, we are going to be getting a letter out probably as early as tomorrow to clarify that nobody's insurance has been lost and anything else that needs to happen to get them re-enrolled for next year as well. And thank you for your patience as we've worked through that. Thank you for the support of our human resources team. You've been very complimentary of them and made sure you isolated that from New Synergy, and I really appreciate that as well. That's meant a lot to them as well, so thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned.